This is my video about American Psycho by Bret Easton Ellis. In an interview, Bret Easton Ellis stated, "Whenever I am asked to talk about American Psycho, I have to remember why I was writing it at the time and what it meant to me. A lot of it had to do with my frustration with having to become an adult and what it meant to be an adult male in an American society. I didn't want to be one because all was about status. Consumer success was really the embodiment of what it meant to be a cool guy. Money, trophy girlfriends, nice clothes, and cool cars. It all seemed extremely shallow to me. Yet at the same time, you have an urge to conform. You want to be part of a group. You don't want to be shunned. So when I was writing this book as a young man, I was having to battle with conforming to what was then yuppiedom, the yuppie lifestyle. Going to restaurants and trying to fit in. I think American Psycho is ultimately my argument about this." Bret Easton Ellis is wrong way. Bret Easton Ellis is up there, on my thing. Oh yeah, here's my axe. I might pull it out sometime. I was gonna put it somewhere here, but I couldn't fit anywhere, so it's just gonna be here. If you can't tell, I'm dressed up as Patrick Bateman from the movie. Yeah, I went as him for Halloween, so, yeah. Nice to get use out of this outfit. American Psycho is one of the greatest and most controversial books in history. It's an amazing commentary on capitalism, classism, consumerism, materialism, yuppie culture, sexism, racism, homophobia, and so much more. American Psycho, as I said, is insanely controversial. The type of controversial Lolita has. Many people are repulsed that the writer would even dip their toes into things American Psycho discusses. The book is horrific and gory, and I think the true reason the book is so terrifying comes to a main theme. There are so many Patrick Batemans in this world. Maybe they're not a serial killer, but they laugh at the same type of horrible jokes as Patrick. They stare at the brands more than they stare at the true quality. They can't feel empathy for anyone below their social status. They have images, and they have these horrific images flashing in their mind. We aren't seeing into the mind of a sadistic serial killer. We are seeing in the mind of so many people with an overflowing amount of privilege and dollars in their pockets. Patrick Bateman is simply an exaggeration of a real problem in our society. I'm going to make this in a few different parts, so just hold on to that thought. Also, before I continue, I probably should have said this earlier. I have a little summary, so I'm going to read that before I continue to tell you about how society, and yeah. American Psycho is a yuppie businessman turned sadistic serial killer, named Patrick Bateman. Of course, over the course of the book, he slowly becomes more disconnected with the reality and is unable to tell what's real and what's fake. No matter if you're reading this for the satire and dark humor jokes, the social commentary that's still relevant over 30 years later, or a deep look into the mind of a sadistic serial killer, you will probably get something out of these 400 pages. Or maybe you just need a better skincare routine, so you're willing to read whole 10 pages of Patrick's. His skincare routine is so long, it's a whole chapter. Now my next point, this is a satire. This is another thing I kind of need to clarify before I get into the meat of this, because a lot of people don't realize this is satire, and I think that further points to the fact that a lot of people are similar to Patrick without the serial killerness. Just remove the serial killerness whenever I say that people are like Patrick. I'm not accusing everyone to be a serial killer. And it's because a lot of people genuinely do not see this as satire at all. They see this as just the ideal of what they would ideally be. And I think that's funny. And one of the main points of satire of how you are not supposed to like Patrick Bateman or want to be him is, where is it? Les Mis poster. See that bad boy right there? That's Les Mis. Don't you love my setup? And Les Mis, I've only watched the musical. I've never seen the book, and the book isn't really mentioned in the novel, so I didn't feel like reading all of that just for one video. Um, but essentially the plot, at least the plot of the musical, because again, I've never read the book, is about a bunch of different people in poverty during the French Revolution and standing up against oppressors. This Les Mis, like the musical, is referenced so many times that's actually kind of ridiculous. It's referenced like almost every chapter. Some examples are in the first chapter, literally almost immediately. I think it's on like the second page. It's referenced how this one guy, one of his friends, is pointing out and counting how many homeless people he sees when they're driving around. And there's a Les Mis poster falling on the ground while he's counting all these homeless people, making fun of homeless people. And another thing is his first kill. Against a homeless person. There's a Les Mis poster in the back. One of the prostitutes he tortures. There's a Les Mis poster. No, there's a Les Mis soundtrack it's playing. If you don't know, there's also a character in Les Mis who's a prostitute and shows the horrificness of being in that industry. Or sex worker. I think that's a more politically correct term. But, the fact that it's constantly referenced, I think is purposeful. It would be insane if it wasn't purposeful. And it's because it's supposed to call out the fact that he literally goes to Les Mis, I think twice. Like, he watches the whole musical, and he makes fun of a homeless person outside, and it kind of shows, like, his values, and it shows how little he understands Les Mis, and he's so, like, kind of caught up in this, like, lifestyle that he doesn't realize that the whole thing is saying that he sucks, essentially, the whole play. And then my second point, and I think this is most obvious point to point out, and a lot of people point this out, the book is written by a gay man, and the movie, as you can see, there's a little photo from the movie over there, is written by a woman. And why would a gay man and a woman write about homophobic and sexist things constantly? And there's a lot more homophobia in the book and a lot more sexism in the movie. And that's purposeful. It's because it's making fun of sexism and homophobia. It's making fun. Patrick Bateman, we are supposed to make fun of. We are supposed to point at him and be like, ha ha ha. Not in that. That was a really weird laugh. And then the business card scene is a lot more dramatized in the movie, but there's this one scene where they compare business cards, and it's supposed to show how ridiculous they are because they care so much about their business cards that they're like comparing business cards like it's the most serious thing to ever exist in the whole world. And then finally, let's go to the Sri Lanka rant. I don't know if I pronounced that. Probably didn't. Sri Lanka or Sri Lanka. Either way. I'm calling it that because even though I'm not really talking about the Sri Lanka part, because there's a scene where he's talking about all the different issues in the world, and I'm going to read it because it'd be really weird if I just talked about all the things and didn't show you it, because it's a really like key moment, and I think it's one of the most referenced moments. I mean, don't you know anything about Sri Lanka? About how the Sikhs are killing a tons of Israelis there. Timothy goads at her. Doesn't that affect us? And then they talk about sushi because they're at a sushi restaurant. No, I start hesitantly. Well, we have the Encyclopedia for one, and slow down the nuclear down the nuclear arms race, stop terrorism and world hunger, ensure strong national defense, prevent the spread of communism in Central America, work for a Middle East peace settlement, prevent U.S. military involvement overseas. We have to ensure that America is respected world power. Now, that's not to belittle our domestic problems, which are equally important, if not more. Better and more affordable long-term care for the elderly, control and find a cure for the AIDS epidemic, clean up environmental damage from the toxic waste and pollution, improve the quality of primary and secondary education, strengthen laws to crack down on crime, and illegal drugs. We also have to ensure that college education is affordable for the middle class, protect social security for senior citizens, plus conserve natural resources and wilderness, areas that reduce the influence of political action committees. The table stares at me uncomfortably, even stashed, but I'm on a roll. But economically, we're still a mess. We have to find a way to hold down the inflation rate and reduce deficit. We also need to provide training for jobs and unemployed, as well as provide existing American jobs from unfair foreign imports. We have to make America the leader in new technology. At the same time, we need to promote economic growth and business expansion and hold down the line against federal income taxes and hold down the interest rates while promoting opportunities for small businesses and controlling mergers and big corporate takeovers. Price nearly spits out his absolute after this comment, but I tried to make a contract with each one of them, especially Vanden. Who if she got rid of the green streak in leather and some color, maybe joined the aerobautics class, lived on a blouse, something by Laura Ashley might be pretty. And he goes on a little rant. But we can't ignore our social needs either. Stop people from abusing the welfare system. We have to provide food and shelter for the homeless, oppose racial discrimination, and promote civil rights while also promoting equal rights for women, but change abortion laws to protect rights life, yet still somehow maintain the woman's freedom of choice. We also have to control the influx of illegal immigrants. We have to encourage the return traditional moral values, curb the graphic sex and violence on TV and movies and popular music everywhere. Most importantly, we have to promote general social concern and less materialism in young people. This rant is really, really famous, and you may be saying, from hearing it once, and I've probably had to read this like 5 times when practicing saying all this stuff. All these things sound great, Seneca. What are you talking about? What's wrong with any of these things? And the point is, all these things sound amazing, but not when you put them together. Once you put all these things together, they lose all meaning. For example, and you might be kind of confused, so I'm going to put up an example. We need to hold down inflation rates and reduce deficit, and also he says we need to lower income taxes. But also he says that we need to be the leader of, that we need to also be the leader in technology. He says that we need to fix secondary and first and secondary education systems, and he says that we need to deal with the AIDS epidemic. How do we get the money for that? Oh my God, taxes. These don't work together. You can't say in the same sentence we need to lower taxes, but also we need to fix all these different issues that are given by the government. The government does this. How do we pay the government? Taxes. You cannot put those two things together. And then another point is that he says, again on the technology thing, he says that we need to be leader in technology, but also says that we need to take care of the environment. Fun fact, you know what's killing the environment? Factories, technology, being ahead of everything. That's what's killing the environment. If you want to save the environment, we have to be the lowest in that type of stuff. We have to hold back. But if you want us to be the highest, then we need to just not care about the environment. And one of the things that's probably the most obvious, and the thing I catch first, is the abortion laws to protect the right to life, yet somehow maintain women's freedom of choice. These things are so he can both say to the life people and to pro-choice. No matter if you're pro-life or pro-choice, I think you can understand that our issue is balancing that no matter which way you believe, I think you understand that they cannot be said in the same sentence. You can't take away a woman's right to choose and also keep her right to choose. You can't do both of those things, and that's why it's so controversial, is because it's hard to make these decisions. It's hard to think it's what's more important, our environment or technology. And I don't think he understands what he's saying, because he puts these automatic loopholes and he doesn't explain how we balance these things. And also, I think most of it feels like buzzwords. He throws out the word pro-life, pro-choice. He throws out the word taxes. He throws out the word education, elderly, civil rights, equal rights, all the things he throws out without a single care of how we do that or what they mean. I don't think he knows what they mean. And even when they're talking at the first part, Sri Lanka, I don't think the guy knows what Sri Lanka means, because how he describes what's going on in Sri Lanka isn't really accurate. I don't know that much about foreign policies, so I'm not going to say why I don't think it's accurate. Because I simply do not know that much about what was going on in Sri Lanka. And foreign wars are complicated. And I'm not going to say that because I read like 2 articles means that I know what's going on. So I'm just going to leave it at that. But I think I think a really important thing is that he does not follow any of these things. He is the cause of some of these issues. He is extremely racist. And he's constantly talking about how, and then he talks about how we need to have civil rights. He is extremely sexist, and he talks about how we need to get rid of sexism. He is constantly on drugs, and he talks about we need to get rid of drugs. He says we need to get rid of adult films and violence, even that's exactly what he constantly consumes. And that's what my next point is Patrick is number 1 hypocrite. And this is a really big point. His values are very, very shallow. And I think this is important because kind of everyone's values are kind of shallow. Like, if that rant sounds good to you, think about what you would do to solve any of those issues. A lot of people don't know. A lot of people just know what's going on in the world, but don't know the aspects of them. They know that amount. They know what civil rights is, but I don't think you can tell me in depth about how we should solve civil rights or what funds we should support or how we can do that. A lot of people say lower taxes, but I don't think most people know how to lower taxes. I think a lot of our values are very similar, and that's the way that we're similar to Patrick, is we are equally shallow. And so I'm going to start talking about how shallow he is, because that's not the only example. This is 400 pages. Also, sorry I'm fidgeting with this a lot. This is thing. I'm going to put this down so it's not constantly doing that. But he judges everyone for traits he has. That's a general point I want to give. He calls his friend racist at the beginning of the book for making fun of Jewish people because he's dating a Jewish girl. And because he only cares when people are racist if he's friends with someone of that race, or he only cares about, he also at certain points are insanely anti-Semitic, so he only really cares when he's dating a Jewish person. But after that, you can be anti-Semitic all you want the second we break up, is kind of his look at things. He judges his side piece at one point. He's dating 2 different girls, and one of the girls he judges because she probably is only using him for looks, even that both of his girlfriends are very trophy girlfriends. Neither of them he ever lists a reason why he genuinely likes them. All of the people he dates are very different, besides the fact that they have the trait of hard bodies and the fact that they're blonde. And then another one is, which is a really obvious one, is he makes fun of a homeless man because he says he probably lost his job for doing drugs. When Patrick is constantly on drugs. He is almost always on drugs. And then finally he makes fun of his main girlfriend for not listening to his saying. I think this is one of the most obvious ones. is he comments that she's constantly ranting, and he'll throw out things like, I'm a serial killer, and she won't notice because she's talking and she's talking and she's talking. But the truth is, he cannot know what she's talking about. Like, there's multiple pages where he talks about how she's just talking and talking and talking, but she has no idea what he's talking about. He knows, like, what thing he brought up to that will make her talk about stuff, but he mentions how she dislikes certain coworkers, but he doesn't know why she dislikes them, and then he brings up the coworker, and then she goes on pages and pages rant about why she doesn't like him, and he acts like she's crazy for disliking him when he doesn't know. And he makes fun of her a lot for this. He constantly throws out, like, oh, I'm a serial killer, but he doesn't know what she's talking about. She could be saying, I am a serial killer. I think that's one of the most obvious, like, he's a hypocrite. His values are shallow. His values are simply what things make him look good. If hating on a certain person makes him look good, or he can hate on someone that won't affect his own reputation, he'll do it. A lot of times that's why he actually doesn't kill people, is because he thinks that too many people care. One of the people, that's why he doesn't kill either of his girlfriends, is because he thinks that there's too many people who will care and look for them. He does things off of how much it will affect his social status. He doesn't have values. He really doesn't. And now I'm going to talk about one of the obvious and most prevalent theme, and the thing that I think is most applicable to today and why this book is still so big, is consumerism, and somehow it got, like, more, like, accurate. Okay, first thing, skincare. This book has so many long rants about, like, different things, and it gets kind of ridiculous at points. Like, there's these pages and pages and pages about things, and one of the things that's talked about the most is skincare. A lot of people try to imitate a skincare routine because it's just so damn long. And I think he just projected something, because nowadays people have skincare routines very similar to his, where they're pages and pages and pages long. And I don't think a single person who does these really long skincare routines can tell me with a straight face what it does for them. You're supposed to have pores. You do not need 20 different projects to get rid of holes in your face that no one can see. No one's gonna be checking your face for pores. It's okay. You're fine. I'm a hypocrite in this way. I also do skincare, but I do think it is funny when people have really, really long skincare routines, because it's really, really unnecessary. And I recently have been doing a lot less skincare and probably should get back into it because my skin's not great, but that's a totally other rant. But in general, I think that has gone even more strong. Like, we all have Patrick Bateman skincare routines, and that's concerning that we all are putting, like, 20 different products, and especially women have really long skincare routines now, and makeup routines too, which is also insane. Like, some of these makeup routines are literally trying to make you look like you don't have makeup on. Why don't you just not wear makeup, or wear the 20 skincare products that are supposed to make your skin look good? I'm not anti-makeup, and I'm not trying to say this, like, you shouldn't be wearing skincare or makeup or you're stupid. Like, I'm trying to just point out, because that would be stupid, because our society has given us, like, it's hard to go against society materialism and consumerism, but yeah. And then another section which I think proves this point, which I don't see talked as much because it's not in the movie, but there's a scene where he's torturing someone, and in the middle he pulls out a camera and he talks about the uses of this camera for a whole paragraph, and then the next chapter is like 3 pages just on this camera. There's so many unnecessary rants about, like, these... Oh, I dropped my book. About these different products, and they go on and on and on and on for a ridiculous amount of time. And it gets kind of, like, it's very silly that, like, anyone would care this much about a product. But it's so accurate, because think about how many things you bought just because you saw an ad for them. Do you think everything you own is because it's necessary? I'm surrounded by plants, and my whole costume, most of it I bought specifically for this costume. I am also it. Everyone is this, and this is just a very extreme version, and it's supposed to make fun of it, of having pages and pages. And also the funniest thing is most of the stuff he doesn't know why he bought it. His outfits are kind of ridiculous at points and just are what's most expensive. None of his outfits are like well fully planned. And his friends make fun of him by constantly asking him for advice on outfits because he literally just buys whatever's the most expensive or whatever has the best brand. And constantly make jokes like, what should I style with this tie? Because outfits kind of get a little ridiculous at certain points. Because simply, he just styles expensive things with expensive things without a care in the world about anything else. And then finally, I want to talk about one thing that I think is the most, I haven't heard anyone talk about this, but I think it's important to the consumerism stuff. But he buys a lot of adult videos, and I think the amount he does and how easy it is for him to grab these very sadistic videos targeted towards sadists. I haven't mentioned this yet, but Patrick is a sadist. That's why he kills people. He's a sadist. A sadist is someone who gets pleasure in seeing people being tortured or dying or that type of stuff. But I think this is still insanely prevalent today, and even more because he buys these videos where they're super duper gory torture scenes against women, fictional things, but they're realistic enough that it's someone who literally has seen that in person would like the videos. And I think that's the reason that's so prevalent today is because you don't even need to go out to a video store and have to deal with seeing someone there. You can just look up everything on your phone or on a computer. You could easily find the videos that made Patrick a sadist because he watched enough of them, just on your phone. Some examples, for example, 11% of men are addicted to adult videos, and most people got exposure from 12. Do you know how much more people are, and also a lot of these videos are very dehumanizing towards women. I don't mean to sound like a prude or I think these videos shouldn't exist. This is going to be a common theme in this video. I 100% believe in freedom of speech, and I believe even if I don't like the media, I don't think it should be banned. And I don't believe in banning a lot of media. Just because I don't want to consume it or I think that there's problems with it does not mean I don't think it should exist on the internet. But I do think that it's insane how something that's literally attracted for a sadist, we are easily able to look up. I could probably find something that Patrick Bateman would like in 2 seconds. That's concerning. And that's strange that that's so accessible. And I think that's kind of messed up. And now I want to get on the other point, which kind of contradicts and also... which is also, and this is kind of funny because I feel like it's ironic for me to be talking about this, gore tolerance. Another thing is the fact that these videos aren't just adult content and have pornography, they're also insanely gory and violent. And a lot of them are found in the horror section. And this is a big issue in horror, by the way, is a lot of it goes into the category of torture pornography a lot of times, and as someone who's an active watcher of horror, I've noticed it a lot, and it's very uncomfortable. But I do want to say I have a crazy gore tolerance, and it is concerning how much people's gore tolerance is, and I'm a person who has a crazy gore tolerance. I read this book. This is one of the only books that actually has bothered me on a gory level, but I ate food while watching Terrifier 2. A book that I think is considered ridiculously torturous and gory, unnecessarily gory. And I think it's kind of ironic that I'm talking about this while I am literally someone who consumes this gory media, because I like horror. It's my favorite genre. I wouldn't be making this video if I didn't like horror. But now I want to talk about the gore in the book, because funny enough, for this book having a little bit of commentary on gore in media, this book is insanely gory, and I think there's two arguments against this book, and I agree with both of them. I'm going to say this now. I don't want to say this as, like, there's a certain thing, and I think this is going to take away from, this is going to be a little setback from the themes to talk about another point. Just wanted to say that is, some of it feels unnecessary. This is gore that, like, I don't think even would be in real life. Like, it's insane. Like, there's two dogs that are killed. There's a 5-year-old that's killed at one point. There's rat torture, which I don't think I could ever say in a video, and I don't want to describe it because it's so bad. I had to skip a lot of pages, as again, I literally ate food while watching Terrifier 2. I have a crazy gore tolerance, and the fact that this bothered me is kind of impressive. But also I think that's important to the book, because Patrick Bateman is desensitized to this, and it's put from the point of view of a serial killer. And I think if it didn't have any gore, it would feel strange, because it's from the point of view of a serial killer. So do that. If you ever read the book, do that. Have that knowledge that it's going to be something that someone who literally writes horror and has watched. There's, like, an iceberg of, like, most, like, gory, like, movies. I think I've watched, like, all the things on the two, like, first layers of the iceberg. Or at least most of them. So now I'm going to finally summarize this and talk about how people are like Patrick, and pretty much just go over my old points. So, again, we buy things without thinking, as I said in consumerism section, and then, Patrick isn't really his own person. He is, like, exactly what he is expected to be. He is buying exactly what he's supposed to buy. He is acting the way he's supposed to act. He is, like, almost this personification of, like, this capitalistic consumerism culture, yuppie culture. He so much, like, fits into this, besides the serial killer part. That's, like, the one thing that sets him apart. Besides the serial killer part, he buys exactly what he needs to buy. He has a Rolex. He has, like, a trophy wife girlfriend. His type is exactly what a, like, yuppie businessman is supposed to like, which is, like, a conventionally attractive girl with blonde hair. And he's very, very adamant that the people who he, like, is supposed to hook up with have to be blonde, to the point where he yelled at a place that, like, sells adult sex workers. He yelled at a place pretty much like, "How dare you give me a dirty blonde hair instead of, like, platinum blonde." He is exactly what this culture wants, besides the serial killing. He is such exactly what you were supposed to be. And to a certain extent, from the ending, I think there's 2 points, which is a thing I'm going to read, and I'm going to say, oh yeah, my book is on the floor. Oh god. Grabbing the book again. I want to say this is when he's talking to Jean, and it's a really important point in Jean. If you haven't noticed, Jean is his coworker that's in love with him, and I was actually going to make this whole video about Jean. I was thinking of just talking about Jean, but I thought I might make another video just about Jean, because I think she's a really interesting character, or just about all the women in American Psycho, because they're interesting characters. But I'm just talking about the themes in this video, and a little bit about, yeah. But there's a line where he says, how many people in the world are like me? I ask again. Do I really appear like that? Patrick, she says, I wouldn't lie. No, of course you wouldn't, but I think that my turn to sigh competitively. I think, no, they say no two snowflakes are ever alike. She nods. Well, I don't think that's true. I think a lot of snowflakes are alike. I think a lot of people are alike, too. She nods again, though I can tell she's very confused. Appearances can be deceiving, I admit carefully. No, she shakes her head, sure of herself for the first time. I think they are deceiving. They're not. I don't think they're deceiving. They're not. Sometimes, Jean, I explained, the line separating appearance and what you see and reality, what you don't, become blurred. I think this is kind of a big thing because he essentially says, I am, besides the serial killerness of what Jean sees me, Jean's someone who doesn't know he's a serial killer. Without the serial killerness, he is just such he's such a just average yuppie guy. He is so similar to so many people in the world. Every yuppie man in this book is so similar to him. A lot of yuppie men are very similar to him. They make the same type of jokes. They buy the same type of things. They do the same type of things. Besides the serial killerness. But they consume the same type of media, funny enough. And they have the same shallow values. And then the ending, I think, is powerful because I'm not really getting into, as I said, I'm not really getting into all the themes. And a big thing is he imagining all this or not, because he's an unreliable narrator. But I think either way, however you think it ends, I think it proves something. There's two different endings in this book. There's one where he confesses to his lawyer. Well, three, actually. There's one that he confesses to his lawyer, and his lawyer says, no, Patrick, I saw Paul Allen. He confesses that he killed Paul Allen, which is one of the main people he kills, and his lawyer says, no, I saw Paul Allen, last week. I had a dinner with Paul Allen. You're imagining this. I saw Paul Allen. Which gives two things. One, rather, he's just crazy and he made up killing Paul Allen. Or two, his lawyer's just not going to let him get in trouble. And I think the second one, that his lawyer is just, lying so he won't go to jail, I think is honestly the better ending and a lot better interpretation, and I think is more of an interesting ending. But either way, if he just made it up, the fact that he's not in a mental institution, and if he didn't, the fact that he's not going to jail shows that he really can't do anything wrong. No matter what he does, he will get away with it. The people in his life will not let him suffer from it. He openly tells, women, Daisy, for example, he openly tells Daisy that he attacked someone. Daisy's one of the people he, slept with. He openly tells Daisy that he attacked a homeless person the other night, and Daisy's been abused by her past boyfriend, so she just goes, okay, because she doesn't want to stand up to him or fight him or things like that. She's probably just scared and knows that the more she does, the more danger she's in. So she's just okay. She doesn't report it to the police. She doesn't run away. She doesn't do anything. And when he tells his lawyer, he doesn't investigate anything. He doesn't look into it. He doesn't do anything. Even if he didn't attack anyone, the fact that he isn't at least getting some evaluation or interrogation or something is insane. And it shows the amount of privilege he has. He's a straight white man with a bunch who's rich. He gets away with everything. Even if he didn't kill anyone, even we take that thing, he says so many horrific things. He yells at everyone. He doesn't care about consent. He is openly horrific. He yells at a waiter one point and says, "You should die. I hate you. I hope you end your life." He does all this stuff and he never gets anything about it. And I think that's two things. Is one, it shows you can't really escape from your privilege, and you can't escape from this thing or this mold. You can't escape from being exactly like everyone else. No matter what he does, even if he mass murders people or imagines mass murdering people, he still will get away with everything, and he still will be perfectly fine. Now, the second point. There's that one point when he goes in an Uber. This is the more likely to be something he just imagined. And this guy yells at him because he says that he was on a wanted poster for killing a prostitute or a sex worker. I don't really know which term I'm supposed to use. And this guy yells at him, and in a line, Patrick says, "You should die, you should die, you should die." And then, I don't have the page marked, but I don't think I forgot to mark. But essentially says, well, it's better than being a yuppie, then being dead man is better than being yuppie scumbag. Which I think is another point, is that at the same point, he will always get away with things. People will hate him for always getting away things. People will hate him because he gets away with everything. There's a point he looks at a thing and it says that there's graffiti saying that yuppies are horrible because he gets away with anything, and most people don't get that. The homeless person got fired from their job maybe for doing drugs. Well, which is never confirmed, but that's what Patrick thinks. But Patrick can do drugs at any point. Patrick is free from anything. And I think that's why Patrick is so realistic, besides the fact that so many people are like him, is that most people get the Patrick treatment. They get away with things. Even serial killers from the time. A lot of serial killers, if you go into their case, especially from the 70s and 80s, there'll be like 1 million people called, "Hey, my neighbor's a serial killer," and no one did anything. These people get away with things. And I think that's scary, is that there's so many people like Patrick Bateman, and Patrick Bateman gets away with anything. Patrick never goes to jail. Patrick never goes to a psych ward. Patrick is just allowed to roam free. Patrick is exactly too accurate. Patrick is too accurate of a character. And Patrick's a really interesting character because of that. And I think that's why it's so controversial and people hate the book. Besides, it is gory. It's too gory for me. But if you take it with the gore, I think that's important. Now, one more point that's totally unrelated to the thing. I just wanted to say I prefer the movie still. If the gore that I explained sounds too much for you, watch the movie. This is really hard to see, but I have another photo. It's Patrick with a bow. Here's and hearts. I have this photo framed. I think it's funny. But the movie is way less gory. It is written by women, so there's a lot less torture of women. And it is a great book. It is really, really good. I like it a lot. It's a great movie. And it's a great book. I like it a lot. I enjoyed this a lot. I enjoyed writing all these notes that I spent like a few days on. And also they're thinking of making another movie, so that's gonna be interesting. I'm kind of scared because the writer is by Call Me By Your Name, and from Call Me By Your Name, I don't think they're gonna do the way. Also, the movie is a lot more cartoonish and doesn't give any empathy for Patrick Bateman and gives him a lot more cartoony character, which is a lot easier to digest. I don't think the new movie is going to do that, because from Calling Me By Your Name, I think he'll very much give this edgy thing, and they'll add all the gore scenes to make it edgy, and I think that kind of takes away the point, because again, there's a little bit of a point about how it's so easy to get torturous pornographic media, and they're gonna include all of it in the movie, so I'm still gonna watch it, but yeah, that's my opinion. Bye-bye. Also, my outfit's cool. Yeah.